They are here, among us. Resistance is futile. This is Beyond the Wild.
All right. Hello everyone. My name is Doxy. I am your host um, for the show Beyond the Wire. Um, we're gonna be going over a little bit what's happening recently in the news. Lately, things have been happening in the background. Not loud, not headline dominating, but consistent enough that if you spend time around military infrastructure, you start to feel that itch in the back of your mind. Now, there's drones over nuclear bases, signals nobody's want to explain, and movements in places nobody wants to talk about. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's exactly what something is supposed to look like before anyone calls it that. All right, so the Barksdale drone swarms. Between last month, between March 9th and 15th, and more than a dozen unidentified drones were reported swarming Barksdale Air Force Base, which is a site that houses part of the U.S. Nuclear capable bomb fleet. It isn't just an installation, it's where B 52 aircraft are stationed. And according to the officials, these drones weren't just passing through, they lingered, maneuvered, and operated in ways that suggested coordination. What's coordinating them? What is it? Is it the Chinese? Is it the Russians? Um, Shoot, could it be extraterrestrials? Or maybe it's AI? Maybe Skynet has gone live. But what makes this incident stand out isn't just the presence of drones, it's the failure to stop them. Electronic warfare countermeasures, including jamming technologies, reportedly have had little to zero effect. And that's not a small detail. Military bases like this are specifically designed to deal with aerial threats, even unconventional ones. I know during my time in Afghanistan, it was pretty crazy to be close to the flight lines and see what type of security is running there. And then shortly after I left, there was the raid at Leatherneck. But the official explanation remains incomplete. Speculation ranges from foreign surveillance operations to non state actors testing our defenses, but there's also the uncomfortable truth out there. Something probed a nuclear capable installation, and the response wasn't decisive. Is this an inside job? You know, we we may have unconfirmed or confirmed whispers and rumors about certain people having access to things that they shouldn't, working with parties that they shouldn't, not having the right clearances, which is more indicative of our political infrastructure rather than a implication of the military. It's more of the people that run it. But um, you know, my big question is why weren't these drones shot down if they were over a military installation, especially a nuclear one, where pretty important aircraft are are housed there. You know, but if it was just one base, you can maybe call it an isolated incident, but it wasn't. All right. In the DC area, there's been drone incursions. Reports have also confirmed drone incursions over sensitive military zones in the Washington, D.C. area, specifically near locations tied to high ranking officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, um, old keg breath himself. These are not random airspaces, these are amongst the most monitored and restricted zones in the country. And with the presence of these unidentified drones in these areas, you know, one could make a claim bold intelligence gathering effort or a systematic vulnerability. Unlike the rural area, though, and overseas bases, the DC airspace is layered with surveillance, radar coverage, and rapid response protocols. Because, oh, I don't know, 9/11. Um, but that fact that drones are still able to penetrate or operate within this environment uh, raises some eyebrows and just begs some questions that have to be answered. And is this tied to the earlier incident? I mean, these aren't hobbyist drones. These are coordinated, repeated incursions into sensitive zones tied directly to national security leadership. And whether it's reconnaissance or signaling or just probing, someone is testing boundaries, and they're doing it for margin where the margin for error is supposed to be zero. Um, but who are the actors? Who are the bad actors? Are they coming from? Is the call coming from inside the house? Are these people, um, or whoever it is? All right. Now across the pond, over in Germany, in Europe, um, the Germany number station. So in Germany, a mysterious number station broadcasting in Persian was traced to a U.S. military installation in Boblingen. Number stations, which have long been associated with espionage and typically broadcast coded messages using sequences of numbers, tones, or voices, and they've existed for decades. They're an example could be from uh, Stranger uh, Stranger Things, the Netflix show, the um, one of the main characters, 11. She uses telepathy and is able to pick up on number station runners um, in Russian, the Soviets. But what makes this case unusual is both the language and the source. Persian language transmission originating from a U.S. base raises immediate questions about audience and intent. If legitimate, it suggests active communications directed towards Farsi-speaking assets, which, um, with the tensions in Iran going on right now, where I've known some people who are Iranian, they prefer to call themselves Persian. They don't like to be considered um, labeled the by their country. They prefer to have a bit of flair to their identities. Um, but if we have on a military installation, if a Persian language is being transmitted, raises the possibility of misdirection or maybe insider threat type stuff. Now, the broadcast reportedly lasted around 2 hours with no official clarification on its purpose. The silence is notable. Number stations thrive in ambiguity, but when tied to a known military installation, that kind of paints the picture itself. But why Persian? Why now? Is it because of the Iranian um, actions between the U.S., the tensions, and that have been going on? So, not too long ago, back when I was serving, there was a major in the army who um, acted violently against soldiers and people in a hospital that he was a doctor at. So maybe we need to find someone who's got some ears to the ground and maybe relay a little bit of this information. All right. Not only Germany, but back to Greenland, the Greenland expansion. So more reports are coming out that the United States is quietly negotiating to expand its military footprint in Greenland, which can potentially lead to developing 3 new installations. This comes amid the rising Arctic tensions and strategic competition over the region's resources and positioning. And, it's not any secret that our illustrious commander in chief has directly attacked or claimed that Greenland is on the menu, that it's one of the places that he wants to conquer, he wants to claim, he wants to envelop it, and by the U.S., not unsimilar to how other country leaders have moved into um, sovereign nations, which should raise, um, all the alarms, all the red flags. But so far, not much. But um, The experts say that expanding military infrastructure there would significantly enhance the surveillance, missile detection, and Arctic operational capability, but the negotiations have been unusually discreet, even by defense standards. Part of me wants to say maybe they're keeping them discreet because all of the ideas are bonkers, absolute bullshit, banana shit, cat shit, crazy. No, makes no sense to um, to attack or move more taxpayer dollars into a sovereign country that we've been allies with for however long. But, you know, what do I know? I'm just someone that had to pick up the bullshit and deal with the fallout, like many other enlisted in the military. Um, but maybe this could lead to an Arctic as a future battlefield, especially now with um, a kind of downgrade of military weaponry being used in conflicts and currently going on right now. Drones, which are relatively cheap, but much cheaper than moving entire battalions and companies, military expeditionary, marine expeditionary units across the oceans to position themselves strategically. Why do all that when you can have a much smaller footprint and just as effective and deadly, or if more so, drones, which are way easier to replace than the operator. So, all right, but coming down to one of the last bits of our um, breakdown is the UAP disclosure pressure. So, as of April 2026, this month, the US government is facing increasing pressure to release classified information related to unidentified aerial phenomena, commonly referred to as UAPs. Now, lawmakers are pushing for transparency regarding sightings near military bases, many of which remain unexplained. Now, I follow another podcast. The last podcast on Left On, they do current events, side stories, and they were saying about a year ago, the the drones, the activity of the drones, like no one knows, or they do know now, and then, but don't worry about it. It's not something for you to worry about. And to me is, you know, I'm not gonna sit there and take that. Then I want to know, like, where do the drones come from? Who's using them? Is this Lockheed and Martin? Is this Raytheon? Is this, Boeing? What are the why create these drones? Why have them be utilized in such a way? And if they're not, um, being used in ways that they're supposed to? Why isn't there being investigations? Why are there people being brought forth to answer for this? And why are the um, like where are the adults being like, where, hey, this isn't right. These weaponry, these aircraft are operating in ways that we shouldn't be operating, and we want answers. Um, but I've tried to follow it recently, and it's been pretty quiet so far until this month. So the issue regarding the UAPs, the lawmakers are pushing for transparency regarding the sightings, and because a lot of them are unexplained, like I was saying, there's been happenings, and we're just supposed to stand by and just kind of put our heads in the sand and ignore everything. Now, um, so military personnel have reported encounters with these aerial objects demonstrating capabilities that exceed known technology, which like rapid acceleration, unconventional movements, and lack of visible propulsion systems. But with that, it's, you know, like all they got to do is Lockheed has to be like, oh, revealing we have the Y2 bomber that's, you know, can move asynchronous compared to the former aircraft in the past. It moves an unorthodox way. We use this type of fuel. It's whatever, but it'd at least be some sort of answer. But what's different now when it comes to this UAP stuff is there's a deadline. The pressure just isn't public; it's institutional. Now, whether we're going to be able to get full disclosure, partial release, or more continued ambiguity, this conversation itself signals that there's a shift and that the unknown is no longer being ignored and it's being documented. And don't get me wrong. Um, Recently, one of the politicians, I believe it was a senator from Alabama, I think, or one of the southern states, was saying that the truth and the reality behind UAPs and aliens and extraterrestrials is too much for anyone to handle. That the world will burn. That don't worry about it. Don't worry your pretty little heads. And it's like, fuck you. I want to know. If the world has to be burned about it, fuck it. So let it burn. I want to know the truth. I'm tired of this system crushing the average person, crushing the, we've let the foxes into the hen house, and every single one of us is getting uh, poorer and poorer and sicker and sicker. But the people that can, that started off exploiting the world and can continue to do so and you know reap the rewards. Sick of it, tired of it. Now, I'm not saying aliens are real. I have a healthy skepticism about a lot of things: ghosts, monsters, cryptids, and all this stuff. As a person that has a healthy skepticism, I also like to keep a healthy open-mindedness to things. If an alien were to knock on my front door and gleep glorp gloop gloop and introduce themselves, and I don't really, cool, as long as they're not trying to eat me or make me, chattel or cattle, whatever. Welcome to Earth, and welcome to California. Our weather is pretty good, and we make some cool movies. You want to watch Independence Day? I don't know. But I digress. Let's take a look back at it all. So we have drones over nuclear bases, drones near our government leadership, and there's signals with no clear origin, and quiet expansions into strategic territories, and pressure to know what's been happening in the skies. Which maybe none of these are connected, or maybe they're all connected. Who knows? We don't know. I don't know. You don't know. If you do know and you have some sort of insight, please email the podcast at beyondthewirepodcast@gmail.com. Let me know the story. Give me a little bit of the juice. I want some of the tea. And, because sure enough, we may be headed down the path of getting the answers that some of us want, some of us are maybe scared to have or whatever. But enough people are starting to notice. And out here, beyond the wire, those things are worth paying attention to. Again, I'm your host, Doc C. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Wire podcast. Please follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and once I have my Substack set up, please follow on there, and then go to YouTube and like and subscribe, because I'd really appreciate it. All right. Thank you. Doc C out. You have been listening to Beyond the Wire. If something's been gnawing at you, if you've seen things that don't make sense, we want to hear from you. Email us at beyondthewirepodcast@gmail.com. Send us your stories, your questions, and your theories. Like, follow, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, and TikTok. Together, we'll keep digging, and above all, we'll keep our eyes open. The truth is out there, and it's time to make sure it's heard.